What up, people? Welcome to the Freeman Collective. What is it? Today is not Tuesday.
Nope.
No.
My apologies to the people. It is not Tuesday.
We tricking everybody again.
Yeah, sometimes, we have to, do that CDP thing, color people time. CPT, I'm sorry, color people time, man.
Yeah, color people time ain't supposed to change the calendar though. So we gotta make up. We gotta make this up to the folks.
Our circadian rhythm is different.
Yeah, we've been putting out a lot of content lately, you know what I'm saying? So hopefully we know that was ahead of time. We got some shows coming in also maybe later on this week as well. So we doing our thing. We doing our thing, fellas.
We are. So hey, today's episode is Everybody Loves Kamala. I'm Darvell. I'm going to be hosting us through this fantastic voyage of the discovery of our Vice President of the United States and how things are going for her. And I want to hand it over to Stedman and then Gerard.
Hey, how y'all doing today? It's Conspiracy Brother Stedman, here to dialogue with y'all about y'all's favorite sister girl. What I call her a couple shows ago, I called her Auntie Skiwi.
Yeah, so, Auntie Skiwi.
We got we gonna get it. We gonna get it to Auntie Skiwi, y'all's favorite sister girl, vice president, black girl magic. We just gonna look at her because she's been in the news a lot. There's a lot of stuff going on surrounding her vice presidency. We just gonna kind of get into her. So
right.
Hey, it's your boy Gerard Ibn Lamont, also Adolph J. Rocky, your East Side political commentary. We are gonna also hit up on some stuff on the local beat as well. What to expect with this proposal R, which was the reparations task force that was passed in this past November 2nd election. So, man, let's get at it, man. Let's
do it.
Do.
So, hey, y'all, before we get started, if you see this right now live or if you see it later on the playback, the first thing we need you to do is we need you to take 2 seconds. We need you to hit the subscribe button on YouTube. If you're watching it on Facebook, go over to YouTube, the Freeman Collective, and hit the subscribe button. And then if you've already done that, make sure you share this video to your Twitter, to your Facebook, to whatever social media you use, somehow on Instagram. Get it out there. Let people know we're having a discussion that not many people want to have, because the reality is that black politics are the politics of the descendants of freemen in this country. We got it all backwards, but we're going to let Kamala tell that story for us today. So first thing, though, is we got to hit that local beat, right, Gerard?
Yeah, definitely, for sure, man.
Let me pull something up. I seen WDET had a little something they put out not too long ago. What is this about to tell us, man? We're about to talk about what? Prop R?
We're about to talk about Prop R, man, and what the actual people expect. So as many if you follow our show, we prior to Prop R being passed, we suggested that it wouldn't be passed because it was too vague. Didn't really talk about and vague more so having to do with what the mission is. It's how many members were, how the committee will actually be composed, how would someone actually be approved on the committee. All these things are yet to be done, as well as there really wasn't a thorough public vetting of what people wanted from out of this city entity, basically, that will be answerable to the city council for the most part. So, this WDET is a local radio station, Wayne State University's radio station here, and they do a very good job in covering local politics compared to the other forms of media in this area. And I believe this is an interview that was done, taken along the Avenue of Fashion. For those who are not in this area, that's Livernois. Some people pronounce it Livernois, but it actually should be Livernois. I don't know. I'm just bougie like that. But anyways, it's Livernois. I is silent, just like Illinois.
Right.
But Nonetheless.
But the key thing about it, right, is that it's a large concentration of the black-owned businesses in Detroit, right?
Right, exactly. Yeah, historical, and it's kind of is undergoing a rebirth and revitalization. All of last summer, there was construction, and the streets were widened, and so on and so forth. But a lot of businesses were hurt in the process of that main street thoroughfare was shut down, and you'll hear some of the concerns of those citizens and business people in this area, what was actually needed. And to be a spoiler, from our perspective, it's not really what reparations should be used for. But okay, we're gonna let this clip roll, right? Or you want to cover the article first, and then
I'm gonna walk through the article a little bit, and as we go through this piece, we're gonna get people up to speed on what this is, and then let you chime in, you and Stedman, to chime in on it as we see it fit. So, like, listen here, like this WDC piece is coming back to the avenue of fashion, and it's asking people their opinions about what's going to happen with this new reparations proposal or reparations task force that has been enacted through Prop R being passed, right? They start off with just basically helping people get a grasp that reparations is this idea of making amends for a wrong, right? The basis of what reparations is. Many people in this country have heard of reparations in different forms. They usually hear from it in sense of the Black community, the American descendants of freedmen, and specifically the concept of being compensated for slavery or another unfair treatment toward us as African Americans or descendants of those who were formerly enslaved in this country. That's where a lot of Americans have heard reparations, but reparations are not new to the U.S. government, America, let alone the world, right? We've heard of reparations for the Holocaust victims and their descendants. We've heard of reparations for the folks who've gone through different things here in this country, including the Japanese who are interned. The other people have been the Native Americans have received different forms of compensation. And we're not here to judge what those are and if they were enough or anything like that. But we are here to kind of talk about the fact that this conversation on reparations for this community, our community, the American descendants of freedmen, the descendants of freedmen community, these conversations have been happening across the country recently, right? As this article opens up with, the concept has gained traction in places like Evanston, Illinois, where officials began a reparations program where eligible Black residents get $25,000 to help buy or repair a home. We already talked about that here on this channel. That is not real reparations. That's a bullshit housing program. So the bill that advanced in the House, which is HR 40, which we're going to talk about later, we talk about HR 40 as well, which is a national bill, one that's in the U.S. Congress to try to take up a task force to study a full-fledged reparations program. That bill has problems as well, just like the Evanston, Illinois situation has problems, and there are other local municipalities that have put things out that have had problems, right? So Detroit, however, may be going on forge to do its own thing as well with the passing of Prop R. Detroit may soon have its own offerings. Voters overwhelmingly passed Proposition R earlier this month, greenlighting a city council task force on reparations. The committee is meant to make recommendations. It is not binding. That committee cannot hand out money. This committee is meant to make recommendations for housing and economic development programs to address historic discrimination against Detroit's Black community. Now, let's be clear here before anybody gets their knickers all tied up backwards. Detroit is a Black city, so we're really talking about over 80% of Detroit right now when we say discrimination against African Americans or Detroit's Black community. But we're only talking about those who have descendants in this community who have a legacy in this community when you get to the bottom of it, right? So if you just arrived 2 years ago, this is not going to be for you. But let me continue.
We don't know. That's the thing. That's what it should be, right? But those parameters haven't really been put in place. I mean, and then here, housing and economic development programs, we already are narrowing the scope of where it needs to be. But go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, you're right. And that's the thing, right? The problem is that it's not defined well enough, so it leaves us open to some problems, right? So On the Avenue of Fashion, Detroit's west side, the Livernois corridor is touted as the largest concentration of Black-owned businesses in the city. Now, we're going to talk about Rod Fletcher, who owns the store Your Shoe Closet on the Avenue. He moved there from Royal Oak 9 years ago because he's a Detroiter and he believes in Detroit. I've been in his store. In terms of economic development programs, Fletcher would like to see additional resources to support small businesses like his own. And he's quoted saying, "We need more things to drive customers to the area because the Avenue of Fashion is coming back." I'm going to start highlighting some of this stuff because we got to come back and analyze it. Fletcher goes on to say, "But we need more advertisement about the Avenue of Fashion." Okay. Now down the block, across the street, is the Energy Zone. I know the Energy Zone. Energy Zone is a cool spot. It's a raw juice shop. That's one of the newest additions to the Avenue, and it's a small shop with brightly painted walls. Jackie Lang says she opened up the shop with her husband in June. I was there for the opening day. As a business owner, Lang says she'd love more coaching for companies when they receive loans. If I get a $100,000 loan, but I don't have anyone showing me how to use that $100,000 to make an additional $100,000 so I don't have to pay that back, then it really can actually become more of a hindrance than it can a benefit. Okay. Then up the street, Dejanay Gordon. Dejanay, ain't it? I'm going down. If you're watching and you find out that I mispronounced your name, you can stab me. Miss Gordon sits at
Don't let
counter
Ernest find out.
Huh?
I said, don't let Ernest find out you butchering names, bro.
Oh yeah, Ernest will help me clear it up real quick. He'll slide up. So she's sitting inside a counter at Joe's Gallery, right? So her short green hair adds to the kaleidoscope of colors in that space. It's a Black-owned business that sells African artifacts, jewelry, and work by local artists. Gordon is a gallery assistant, and she says she'd like to see more investment in skilled trades programs. We're going to put a pin in all of this, y'all. We're going to put a pin in all of this. That's why we're highlighting it as we walk in. Now, they quote her to say, "I think right now, with college being so expensive and with inflation, I think that trades are more conducive to the advancement of Black people," Gordon says, "but also not to discourage college graduates because I'm also a college graduate." Okay, we're gonna highlight that there. We're gonna highlight that. Gordon's colleague, Mia Elzy, says she'd like the reparations committee to suggest free and improved public transportation. Okay, we like that. "I know that we're known as the Motor City, but public transportation kind of cuts our carbon footprint down and also helps more people, lower income people, be able to get around the city." So we're going to highlight that. But you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to come back to this carbon footprint part. I'm going to hit that with a red. Because, well, whatever. We're just going to keep the whole thing red. Now, walking down the avenue on our way to grab a bite to eat, Sierra Washington says nothing immediately comes to mind when asked about reparations programs she'd like to see, but she says she supports the idea of direct cash payouts, which is still on the table, according to Mary Sheffield, the Detroit council member behind Prop R. Bro, I'm just highlighting shit. Okay. Mm-hmm. Now, I think that's a good idea because Black people don't really get as much. So it would be good. It will be good for some people of color to have the opportunity. This is what Washington is saying. I'm not going to highlight that because she's just doubling down on what she said up here about direct cash payouts. Now, I think at Simply Casual, a clothing shop, which they should have capitalized that because it's the name of the store. Stylist Asia K says it's not about what reparations are proposed, but whether or not the city actually implements the task force recommendations. She hit a home run right there, but we're not really going to be implementing anything worthwhile at the city level, honestly, to be serious. And we're going to talk about that. However, I just hope they do it. Honestly, a lot of people say they're going to do things, but they never really see the outcome. So I hope to see the outcome. Okay. First things first, the committee needs to be established. To do that, City Council will need to pass a resolution to establish the task force. It happened in January 20. What, bro? Gerard?
No, I didn't say anything.
Bro, no, what is this? What is this? Okay. Okie dokie.
That's that. So we don't have to kill.
We got the city council got to vote on the task force to pass the task force that the citizens voted on to pass.
Bro, that's where I'm at. I'm still at the end.
Yeah.
We'll just have to.
Man, they have to.
That sounds right.
Yeah. Yep. So
that sounds about like the shell game
they
we
didn't need
expected
to
it to
do
be.
that. So yeah, I don't believe that they needed to do that. What was can we re-see that again? I believe black contraband.
Oh yeah, he was just saying in the city of Detroit, is the city of Detroit really asking for their local reparations to consist of improving public transportation? Yeah. So that's kind of the problem, right? That's what we're about to double in on. So let's go back through this article again and look at the highlights, right? So on this show here, we've talked several times about what are reparations. Truly, what is reparations supposed to be, right? And what I think we find here between, needing to drive more customers to the area for the Avenue of Fashion because it's coming back and they need more advertisement for the Avenue of Fashion, education on loans because if they don't make the money, education on how to use $100,000 loan.
Right. That's financial literacy that basically.
Right. But it's but we're going to put a pin in that. It's like we're talking about that. Then we're also saying investment in skilled trades programs. Then we're talking about college being expensive. So we want to move people into trades and then, still keep them in college if we can. Improving public transportation. She mentioned the carbon footprint, which is, that's outside of the scope of what we should be talking about.
That's why, this is why we said this was a bad idea. Because it's scatterbrain.
Yes,
what everybody's talking about is scatterbrain. That's why when we speak about reparations on the show, it's a very precise set of asks for a very specific set of wrongs. And what is essentially this is what they're essentially wanting to use reparations, the prop R, as a federal grant program. Just write a grant proposal to the federal government for public transportation funding, for clean air or something. That's what needs to really be done at the city level or the county level or the state level. We've got a Democratic governor, we got a Democratic mayor, we got a Democratic county commissioner or Democratic county executive. You need to be talking to the president of the United States, who's Democrat, and asking him for the funds to do these programs y'all talking about.
I mean, and they got the money. You know what I'm saying? We got that 400 billion or was.
Well, yeah, I'm not saying we don't already have it. I'm not necessarily saying we don't have it, but I'm saying a reparations program to set up for vocational school, or you know what I'm saying, to set up for adequate public transportation. Come on, bro.
No, that's go ahead.
Now, if they said the only way that would kind of apply if it was race specific, or I don't want to say race specific, but freedmen specific, right? Where that's then you can say that these things are in the reparations because all the stuff that they're talking about is in the public interest, and again, are functions of, like you said, of government at the end of the day, which as a citizen, American citizen and resident of this city and state, you already should be have access to. Reparations is a repair for a wrong that occurred to a specific set of people, therefore needs a specific set of redress as a result of a specific harm. But what we see here is just another, like you said, just another lumping of a bunch of different things, and the fact that the speed that this went in, like everything that we thought that would be wrong is wrong. The only way to maybe possibly curb this is to try to get at, when they're crafting out, the actual mission statement of this commission or committee. Maybe we can have some public input on what it needs to stay focused on. And like I said from the very beginning, the public housing and economic development, that's not reparations.
No, and
the specific set of people.
So one thing this also tells me right away, right, is that people and the individuals who've seen that, who are asked these questions. No shade on them, but it tells me that they've not been educated on what reparations are supposed to do. Some of the things that are being asked about in terms of like education, not education, but like the advertisement for the Avenue of Fashion, that's really promoting Black business, to drive customers to Black business so Black business can thrive. That is a function that if we had the wealth in our community, if we had the resources that have been stripped from us repetitively, then if you had those resources, you will be able to do that on your own as any other competitive business. There are already 2 existing Avenue of Fashion business associations that work together collectively to try to promote the Avenue of Fashion. And everybody out there is trying to do their damn best on the Avenue of Fashion. It's because of our hand-me-down wealth degradation that we have not the ability to pull out all the stops and do the same level of advertisement and get the same amount of foot traffic as all these other places in the city in terms of like downtown, midtown, not Cass Corridor, sorry. But
yeah, you're right. Midtown, Cass Corridor. Yeah.
Right. And so the point is that he's trying to deal with a specific issue that is actually just a symptom of the same root cause that reparations is trying to address. So if you would understand that, you will be fighting for reparations so that you could fight and get your business thriving without having to worry about getting specific asks from the government outside of reparations. You can do what every other business does. And we would have the prominent and economic equity across the community, across the entire Detroit city proper, that people would come to the Avenue of Fashion just as much as they go anywhere else in the city. And that's what really a true program of redress and compensation and addressing the historical problems that have been pushed into our community will do. It will help correct that permanently. So people don't know when they ask for additional, when they ask for how to get help, showing you how to use that $100,000 to make $100,000, another 100 grand, that would be education, not just financial literacy, but that'd be education on how to actually manage and grow a business that you should be able to get through classes that you can just take if you went to like either business school or you talk to someone else in your family or your community on how to be able to flip that money. If we have more successful, thriving businesses that could give you that type of tutorship from your own community, but we don't. So Detroit is nothing more but a repeated pattern of businesses that are good businesses in their intention and in their product. But because of our legacy, our businesses are not thriving as they should be for what they're putting out, because they're serving the same community that built the business, and that community doesn't have the money to make that business blow up and explode like white money does, or any business that actually can get that much increase in foot traffic. One thing I like to say about business is that a successful minority-owned business is like Robin Hood. It's like, not Robin, who is it who stole from the rich and gave to the poor?
Robin Hood.
Yeah, Robin Hood.
It's like this. If you're going to grow exponentially, you're not going to be able to just feed off your own community. You have to get money from communities outside of your own community. And then you bring that money in, you keep it in. They talk about circulating the black dollar. Yeah, but you got to get non-black dollars in too, so that the black dollars actually grow. You can't just keep circulating the black dollar and think we're all going to get rich off of the same $1 bill. We need to get 5, 10s, and 20s from everybody else who don't look like us.
Yeah. And that's, so yeah, to that, I was just thinking that you kind of hit the nail on the head, and was definitely hitting my thought process. If you talk to any black business owner, very rarely do they ever say that they only want their customer base to be black people. They intrinsically realize that, for them to survive, they need outside black money, because the money just really isn't there, truthfully, to grow, maybe to operate, maybe to cover expenses, maybe to break even, if that. But most black business owners were like, no, they don't want to be pigeonholed as being just serving black people, generally speaking. I'm sure there's probably some that are outside of that realm, but they want their business to be open to everyone, because again, they need that dollar. Why? From the major, from the major society, or the dominant society, i.e. white society. That's why this is just a circular process, that just keeps happening over and over and over again. And this, this is not new. This, there's nothing under the sun. This whole idea that hey, black business, and it's been tried over and over. But again, it comes back down to a wealthless people really can't produce wealth on their own. Go ahead.
And for me, like, one of the things I always look at is, like, this is one of the things, Dr. Claude Anderson talks about this a lot, talking about essentially trying to industrialize the black community or whatever, or the freedman community. And we live in a post-industrial country, right?
Right.
Well, I mean, at the very least, our country.
Yeah,
and
our
so
country definitely, for sure. Yeah.
When you look at like the avenue of fashion and the whole concept that you're going to be able to really sustain an economy or an economic base or a financial base or infrastructure at all by having all of these independently owned and operated boutique stores is ridiculous, right? I mean, even when you look at, like, my little sister, she's a, I don't know, esthetician, they call them now, not cosmetologist, not beautician, esthetician, I think, or cosmetologist.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know. It's a new term.
Mm-hmm.
And she used to work at Great Clips, which is more like what you would consider a white-owned establishment, and she works at like a black barbershop. And so we talk about the differences, because at Great Clips, they want you to cut people's hair in 15 minutes and get them out the chair. At the black barbershop, you getting your haircut, it might take you an hour, hour and a half. You're just getting cut in the lineup, but everybody talking, and it's kind of a more laid-back environment. And I said, that's the benefit of white establishments. If a white person knows I can go to any Great Clips in America and get my haircut and take me 15 minutes, it's going to be this style, because y'all all kind of have the same process, same price, and this is what I'm going to do. And so really the problem with black people, or the descendants of freedmen, is that we have been locked out of the opportunity to industrialize and then become post-industrial citizens as well. We don't have an opportunity for this man to have your shoe closet to be a franchise all around the country, right? We don't have the opportunity for any of these other random boutique stores that we see all around Detroit to have franchise, barbershops, whatever, to have franchised and become locations all around this country where we know, I don't need to come up with a McDonald's. If I've got the money, I don't need the idea. If I got the location, I can pay for a McDonald's. The product sells. It's a known brand. And I can just essentially let this product that's been around for 70 years sell itself.
And pause that right there. And even when we do get that together, because we don't celebrate countless, not enough, but countless black people owning McDonald's, Chick-fil-A. Oh, we got a black Wendy's. We got X, Y, and the third. Then about 2 years in, we got reports coming all out of the woodwork. Discrimination from the corporate structure, the other white stores trying to squeeze the black store out, all this other stuff coming after them because they can't fight when it's just one and two of y'all in the whole entire city. And it's all of them, and they got legacy money because they came in they came into this like it was a game. And you came into this with every life savings penny you had.
Right. Access to the capital, man. That's really what it always will come down to. Access to capital. So a lot of these things are macro issues that we're trying to solve at the micro level, and it's just it's ass backwards at the end of the day. The reason why the guy can't scale up or have economies of scale because he doesn't have capital. He doesn't have access to capital to have that, $100 million something that you would need to, start a franchise from scratch. Truthfully, you know what I'm saying? You're not going to have that type of money. You could go to a bank or a commercial bank, and they'll be like, okay, yeah, we see the vision, we see the idea, so on and so forth. We'll bankroll all of this up front. You know what I mean? And then again, who are you going to sell the franchise to? Right, you know what I'm saying?
And then next thing you know, it was black, and now it's white.
Right, if exactly, more than likely they're not. And what was was it the color of wealth? Not the color. What was the one with the deal with the black bet? I can't forget.
The color of money. Was it color of money?
Color of money. I'm sorry. And the color of money, she she really breaks this down. One day we should probably do that a book series of that color money, because it really just kind of tears away this myth of, well, if we just, you know, put all our money together. I've heard that trope today. I was on a live stream today, and that was one of the solutions that came up. We just put all our money together, but we just can't because, you know, we tear each other down. That's not the issue. We tear each other. It's already been done at an earlier time when it was actually more economically feasible for us to do so. You know, and we have more black banks than we had today. You know, because it was actually more money, and it was at a time where, you know, our economy is not so further along and concentrated. But ultimately, what ended up happening was that the black money, right? So you have a bank. Your purpose is to loan, you know, money to black borrowers. Most of them buying homes. So what is that money doing? That money is you're buying the homes from the major society. So that money is going out. You know what I'm saying? That home that you borrowed, right? That money that was borrowed, that you lent away, you know what I mean? Which is collective, everybody, right? Gets it all together, and then they're able to leverage that, you know, and multiply that because of fractional lending, right? Make more new money from that, and so they take their customers who are black, and where they're buying their homes, their businesses from the dominant society. So that money you're actually expediting the money going out. You know what I'm saying?
So just to be careful, and you got a very good point there, Gerard, and I don't want to take it away from anybody or you, but just to be clear, so people don't think we're like downgrading the idea of buying property or homes, and it just so happens they're owned by non-black people or non-freedmen's. It's still, the idea is to bring it into our economy, the black economy, and then let it accrue in value, right? That's the idea. So you do flow out cash capital, but the idea is you're supposed to be able to keep it. But Detroit has been a example of how you even have a home and you lose it, because if they sell it to you, then they'll end up running the government, and then they overtax it and they'll get it back for less than they got from you for it. It's kind of, what is that con that they do where there's a con where they sell it to you?
You talking about a Ponzi scheme? A Ponzi scheme. That's what you're referring to. A Ponzi scheme. That's what Madoff and them got in trouble for. But that's what it is. A Ponzi scheme is you always got to have new people coming in, because at the end of the day, it's all. We're not saying property is a and regular finance is a Ponzi scheme. But what you're saying is that's the classic. What you're talking about, where as far as fraud is, a pyramid scheme, a Ponzi scheme, where you bring in new people in, with the promise of they'll get paid return later on, and then those who first came in, they got the money, but you constantly have to get new. Eventually, it evaporates. You don't have any new people in. And the first people they got their money and left. Now it's time for you. You need to bring other people to come in behind you. But the real problem is that if the economy is segregated, that's the big thing. And see, we're segregated. We're segregated. So we would need white people to spend money with us at the same level, right? You need them. You know what I'm saying? White people in just the mass, just the mass society. See, we're too consumer based. We have to be producers, right? In order to be on that, that value chain to where we're competing and participating equally. So it would be all fair, right? Black neighborhoods would be, if they were priced and they appreciated the same way as white neighborhoods and so on and so forth, it really wouldn't be a problem. But because there's a problem, there's so many economic disadvantages. So you save your home, like you said, Darvell, you save up all your money, you do the American dream, you buy your home, but then if your home isn't appreciated in value, just like how the normal house would, is actually depreciating in value, you're getting overtaxed, so on and so forth, right? Well, you know what? Your home isn't really marketable to the average person. You know what I'm saying?
Because of those taxes,
the market rate at the end of the day. So you end up being in a disadvantaged situation. So, like I said, it's macro type of things that will have to change in order for us to be on an even level playing field.
Let me touch on two things real quick. You hit something really good. The color of money. I want people to go out. If you're watching this now, you watch it later. This book is amazing. because it talks about exactly what Gerard was talking about in terms of the black banks we did have and how they fell apart and fell down. Even today, we got fools running around trying to promote our black banks like we all need to throw our money into them. But the black banks themselves are still not going to be any more stable than they were back then, because we still are no more really significantly stable. What happens is we talk about that racial wealth gap. We see the black line go up, but we see the white and the average American line, so white plus everyone else, that is going exponentially up. Ours might be linear at best at any given moment, but in reality, we're actually headed to zero. So we never have the equity to fight. So when you talk about trying to have a production mindset, like trying to own capital so you can produce income instead of being just consumer based, you got to actually have the money to buy into that and compete on a level with the counterparts who don't have your same legacy. That's why reparations is important. If you got the legacy that prevents you from being able to punch with the same levels of gusto in the same marketing and do the same build out and do the same pool of money to pay your employees properly and bring in good talent to have good service and keep it for 3 months, 6 months, almost to a year until you can actually break even and get into the black. If you can't do that and you start cutting corners, you're gonna end up like a lot of businesses in Detroit, and you're gonna lose houses like a lot of people in Detroit have. That's why you cannot cut around reparations. The other thing is that when we look at The Color of Money, the Black Banks and the Racial Wealth Gap book on the screen right now, when it tells you about things that happened in our past, you're going to find a lot of this stuff is repeating itself already. It's just another cycle with a different coat of paint over top of it. And the other thing that I wanted to bring up real quick was The Banker. You remember, did you watch The Banker, Gerard?
Yeah, I definitely did. I did watch it. Yeah.
I finally got to watch that a couple of weeks ago, almost a month ago. And listen, this movie really brings home the essence of what that book talks about, in the sense that these gentlemen had to outmaneuver the system just to get in. And then they outmaneuvered it so much. But guess what? They had to bring in a white man. And I don't want to spill the beans. They had to bring somebody in who would end up undercutting half the situation. Let me shut up. All right, guys.
All of them. But one of the things, that book I brought up before, the myth of black capitalism, it deals with this. The power of any bank. If I don't know how many of y'all watched, and how many people in the chats. I watched the Beverly Hillbillies. My parents, my dad's old. He's not old, but he watched old shows. I watch old shows with him. We watched Beverly Hillbillies, Andy Griffith, even now. And so you see Mr. Drysdale at the bank, and whenever what's his name? The Jed Clampett go to the bank, and he said, "I'm taking my money out the bank," and Mr. Drysdale, "Oh, Mr. Clampett, the power of any bank is in the money they have." And so what happens with black banks is, on average, black people's money is needed. All our money is, we need that liquid. If we're using banks at all, we're just holding it in the bank until we spend it. It's what they call it, transitory or whatever. It's not. We're not putting it aside to save. We're not putting it aside for long-term saving.
We need it for living.
Right. We put it in here because that's where our check is cashed, so we can get it immediately through direct deposits or whatever. And then after it's processed, it's spent. Right. So black banks don't have a chance to even, like Gerard was talking about, a fractional reserve. They don't have a reserve to fraction off. So you don't have reserve funds to give out loans. You don't have reserve money to do anything with for the bank itself. And banks are businesses. That's how they operate.
Right.
Second thing, when we were talking about franchises, so coincidental, a guy I grew up, went to church with, was a deacon on the deacon board. He owned group homes, and he did like a cab business, right? So Metro Cars. I don't know if you know Metro Cars at the airport.
Yeah.
That's it was his idea, and Metro Cars stole it.
Wow.
He used to take Lincolns. He had like Lincolns or Mercedes or something. My dad, if he's watching, he can give me the details in the chat. But he would take either Mercedes or Lincolns or whatever and do cab services for people. And essentially Metro Cars kind of took the idea and ran with it. They had more money, and he went to court about it. And he had quite a bit of money. I don't know if it was millions or multiple millions, but he was a very comfortable guy, extremely comfortable. Lincoln Town Cars, very comfortable guy, financially very comfortable. I don't know how to stress that enough. And the judge essentially told him, you might be right, but if you want to continue to fight this, I'll press the issue until you go lose all the money you have. And so that's the system we're up against too, because we're all fighting this. We're fighting whatever position we're in, whatever industry we're trying to get involved in. We're fighting it. It might be one or two black people who have managed to scrape enough savings together, who's managed to work enough hours to save enough money to buy a franchise. And so you're fighting this beast by yourself, or if you're lucky, with one or two other people. And when the monster fights up against you, it rises up, you're lost. You're by yourself. And so this is a situation, even with the whole post-industrialized. This is why one of the things I think we've talked about with reparations at a national level needs to be black descendants of freedmen need to be able to monopolize an industry. There needs to be something in America, some industry that we need to be able to have sole control over. Because there needs to be a way that we can be brought into. We need to be able to be brought economically into a process and stabilized and sustained within it. Something that's not something trivial and frivolous that they can take and give back and take, but something it's ours to control, it's ours to manage. And if you want it, you got to come through us. Because it's not sufficient to say, even at the federal level, you have to have a certain percentage of black contracts, because they don't do it. Even here at the city level, you're supposed to have a certain amount of city contracts or city workers, and they pay the fines, or they do the workaround, or they work the fines into the proposal. It's not. You have to give us something. You have to give us an industry, whether it's corn, whether it's cotton or tobacco or alcohol. You have to give us something.
I would say several industries.
It don't have to be one.
Yeah, I would say, there's like there's nine activities or major human activities, right? Military, health, it's a bunch of different, it's like 9 major human activities. I feel like, what should happen in the federal, the reinstitution of the Freedmen's Bureau, there should be a setup to where, hey, we select at least 1 or 2 major black companies and all of these major activities of human, what I'm saying? Because otherwise we will always be dependent on the dominant society at the end of the day.
So I think I want to bring us back to the reparations, on reparations task force for Detroit, just to kind of to close this one out as we move into the big picture discussion, which has got to be about Kamala Harris. But again, I think that the essence of this, right, you guys, like we just said, we've seen comments in here about doing education on business management education. We've seen things about doing trades over college or in addition to college. We've seen things about getting more advertising for the Avenue of Fashion, getting more people walking down there. We've seen things that were all over the place as responses to what they hope a reparations task force will recommend the city do for reparations. And reparations, you guys, again, reparations is a comprehensive set of programs which serve reparative justice, fundamentally addressing the socioeconomic disparities at the root of most problems plaguing the Black community today. These disparities include wealth, psychological traumas, environmental deficiencies, education, and anti-Black discrimination. The recipients of said reparations are a specific group that is identified just as specific as any legal court case. It's not going to be a whole list of random plaintiffs. It's going to be a very specific case of specific people who are descendants from those who were harmed by the government, whether it be the city of Detroit up to the federal government. And it's a whole bunch of stuff included in that, y'all. Lineage therapy, class protection for your citizenship, neighborhood and infrastructure restoration, mandatory historical education, federally mandated training for those in the government, national acknowledgement by the White House and the Congress, the HBCU endowment funding. We just talked in our last show about how Howard was going crazy with the students running, the students having to protest. That's because the schools don't have no money. The schools have no business trying to cut away from or trying to underfund or under repair the dorms if they're trying to compete for more Black students every year. They know that's not going to fly. So that this relates back to money, the fact that those dorms are in those conditions. These folks ain't spending money on nothing else because they ain't got no money. And they ain't got no money because nobody's fighting for us like they should be, including the CBC. So that's why reparations is even more serious. Cash restitution and cash compensation for punitive damages and wealth restoration are the last thing and the biggest pillars of it, but they are not alone. This is not just a check. And so when we talk about folks looking for free transportation, getting billboards up and advertising for the Avenue of Fashion, helping people get into trade school and, everything else. Those things are things we can do for ourselves once we have reparations and once we start to straighten out the social economic gulf that exists between us and the average American right now. Once we deal with the racial wealth gap, the racial wealth gap is nothing but the actual manifestation of the failure state that this country has put us into on purpose. It's an engineered failure. So we can't ask for these little things here left and right. We need to use this task force, and I'm going to spin it to Gerard and Stedman to close it out for what they think the task force should do. But we need to be using this task force, in my opinion, to do the study about what Detroit has done specifically that is above and beyond what the federal government had done across the board that specifically may need addressing through additional reparations programs or other programs in the city of Detroit. And that information, that history, all the data that's gathered through that needs to be shared with the national task force or the state level task force. And it needs to all be passed up because you can't pay for proper reparations from tax dollars out of the city's budget. You cannot pay for reparations from the state's money. It has to come from the treasury. And that has to be handled at the federal level. That's all I got. There's nothing that the city can do. They can do those little piecemeal things. You can do those little piecemeal things, but don't ever call it reparations. That's not reparations. We just told you what reparations are. Gerard?
Yeah, I agree with you wholeheartedly. To me, this task force should be limited into what it persuading. How can we persuade? One, like you said, collect the information on what was done above and beyond the federal programs, right? That how was that implemented? Oh, how was it implemented in the city, right? That should be gathered, and ultimately it should be figuring out what do we need to do in order to get a state reparations task force with mission that will task with the same type of mission, but at the state level for ultimately creating pressure to address this federally, because at the end of the day, no state or local municipality can truthfully pay for the restitution that will be needed in order to correct what is the wrongs that have already occurred. So that's echoing you and just getting a little bit more specific in my response.
Stedman?
So for me, I really want to kind of hit on a point you spoke about, very briefly when you spoke, kind of detailing your reparations task force plans. And this is the thing that a lot of people who try to argue against reparations for descendants of freedmen try to bring up. But like you said, you cannot artificially create winners and losers. And that's what's happened to the descendants of freedmen. You artificially made us losers. You artificially made us losers, and you artificially picked others to be winners. And so now that we are demanding some type of justice, some type of redress to correct this, you want to say it's a handout. Now, just echoing what you both have said, I don't need to really restate what you all have said, but I will just for the sake. We need to have this task force at the local level looking at what ways the federal government can better enhance a reparations program with information specific to the state of Michigan, Wayne County, Southeast Michigan, looking at the Black centers because this was such a heavily industrialized area, because this is such a center for the black middle class in this country, the state as a whole, we could have a very unique set of information here relative to any other city in this country or any other state in this country. But apart from that, what needs to be understood is that for 200 years of specific slavery under the American flag, Jim Crow, redlining, convict leasing, sharecropping, and all those things, the U.S. government created a system of artificial winners and losers. And because of our ancestry, because of our history, we were artificially made to be losers. And now that needs to be corrected. It's long overdue, but that is what needs to be corrected. You artificially made us the bottom. You artificially made us losers, not because of some bad choices we made or some bad things we had done or some bad business decisions or a lack of education or for a lack of experience or for a lack of networking. It was arbitrary. And now you need to fix it. That's the answer.
That is. So, and speaking of fixing things, and I'll just say one thing to your point, Stedman. One thing that a local task force could do that would be very relevant to the federal push is they, on a local task force, can talk about what happened to Black Bottom as a result of the interstate program, right? That right there is what a local task force can do. Give the deets on that, put numbers to that, then pass that on to the Treasury and tell them to cut the check.
Exactly.
But you know who ain't about? Go ahead.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna let you go because I like where this is going.
But you know who ain't cutting the check? Your girl. Your girl don't want to cut the check.
Auntie Skiwee.
She don't want to cut no checks for nobody except her.
Auntie Skiwee.
Look at her. She got the gaze. The presidential man. Look, you know what?
That's the Obama look.
Mm.
That's the Obama look off. When you got that look in your eyes like you think about something important, but really it's just like, these niggas eating out the palm of my hand. That's what she really thinking. But that's what he was thinking. That's what that is. The Obama look off.
You know what? I'm looking at it. And you know, the more I think about her and how well they have gotten her out of any type of information cycle, any type of news cycle, they kept her out of it so well that it's like, and then you think about how weakened she's become in this vice presidential office and how much of a joke she's become. I mean, I'm not saying that, and so they're going to be Kamala Love, people who support her out there. I'm not saying that she explicitly done let me back up. What I'm saying is that it's not only her own actions that are getting her downplayed, but it is her own actions, plus the fact that no one ever really valued her to be in this position for any real serious role. This was a space filler, because if they could put Joe Biden in the president's office, they definitely didn't need a vice president, right? Because they weren't even worried about the president. What the hell they worry about the VP for? They got everybody in the background pulling the strings, and Joe is a puppet that can barely remember what he's saying. They ain't worried about Kamala. So go ahead.
To me, it was a baseless attempt to try to ascribe to diversity, to try to ascribe to representation. Her being the quote unquote first Black female. It gave. Also, it was a play to quote unquote Black women being, the backbone of the Democratic Party. I mean, she was a very weak, presidential candidate on her own. I mean, she didn't even make it to the primaries. Usually when they pick a VP is because, okay, hey, this can strengthen, you know what I'm saying, the overall ticket, because they're bringing something to the play. They're bringing voters and constituencies.
They complement each other.
Yeah, they complement each other. They're bringing voters and constituencies that they otherwise wouldn't get naturally. I.e., when JFK picked, Lyndon B. Johnson, right? You know what I'm saying? He's a liberal from the north. You know what I'm saying? From the East Coast or what have you. Lyndon B. J. at that time, hey, he was going to be bringing in the Southerners, right? He was president. He was in the Senate for such a long period of time, so on and so forth. I mean, there's many different examples throughout political history of why, a particular person is chosen. Again, it's always about bringing constituents that otherwise may, or, to a part of the country you don't have a strength in. Kamala didn't even go finish through the primary. I mean, she didn't even make it to the primary. Let us
not
know.
Even that. She didn't even. She wasn't even projected to win her home state.
Right. Well,
they moved California up.
She didn't even make it to Iowa, man. She didn't make it to Iowa. That's the first one. But
what I'm saying is they moved California up to like number 5 or 6 this time, because it takes so long for them to go through ballots. Right. She dropped out. That big state of hers would have swung things in her direction if she had won it. She wasn't even projected to win her home state, and she's a sitting senator.
Yeah,
she had just won election.
Right. But my whole thing for me is she didn't even make it to Iowa. That's the first one of all of them. You didn't even make it to Iowa. Like, damn, because that's usually Iowa, New Hampshire, South Carolina. Generally, those are the first 3. That's how they go: Iowa, New Hampshire, South Carolina. You know what I mean? Some people, if you in the first 2 or 3, then you can make it on to New Hampshire, and maybe if you're not in that, then hey, you pretty much dead out the water. But for a black candidate, usually you say, okay, South Carolina. She didn't even get to Iowa. What I'm saying?
And see, that's the thing. Her popularity really came from Hillary Clinton's camp. They anointed her the successor to Hillary Clinton's campaign because she's a woman, because she's a corporatist, because she's black. What they thought that would allow them to do was ride her like they rode Obama into the White House and then use her as the puppet or the tool to get everything they wanted accomplished. What they did not anticipate was that she is probably the most unlikable candidate ever in the history running for office, at least in the modern time, right? And I'm talking about even more unlikable than Hillary.
Yeah,
because Hillary, like I was watching Breaking Point, and they said Hillary's one of those candidates where the more you hear Hillary talk, the less popular she becomes, right?
Yeah.
So
Kamala Harris is the kind of person that even when you don't hear her numbers still go down. You don't even hear her in the news, and her numbers are still falling.
So all right, let's go
ahead. Let them break it down. Let's break it down.
So let's roll through this piece from CNN. So just so everybody know, we ain't out here just coming after her just because we coming after her. I'll tell you this: when CNN, the stalwart of liberal politics, with a centrist
establishment,
with a centrist gown on, comes out and says something about dysfunction actually occurring in Kamala's office, it's probably right, because they can't hide it no more. So they had to come out here and play damage control. Worn out, they say, by what they see as entrenched dysfunction and lack of focus, key West Wing aides have largely thrown up their hands at Vice President Kamala Harris and her staff, deciding there simply isn't time to deal with them right now, especially at a moment when Joe Biden faces quickly multiplying legislative and political concerns. However, the exasperation runs both ways. Interviews with nearly 36 former and current Harris aides, administration officials, Democratic operatives, donors, and outside advisors who spoke extensively to CNN reveal a complex reality inside the White House. Many in the vice president's circle fume that she's not being adequately prepared or positioned, and instead is being sidelined. We just told y'all that. The vice president herself has told several confidants she feels constrained in what she's able to do politically. Well, they didn't want you to do nothing politically, man. We told you
what does a vice president do any damn way besides just sit there? That's it.
Unless you Dick Cheney, in which case,
yeah, that's the only one.
President. He was vice president because they knew they'd never vote for him to be president.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
The only
George he was a vice president in that relationship.
So here the deal is, and listen, okay, the vice president herself is told the confidant she feels constrained, and those around her remain weary of even hinting at future political ambitions, with Biden's team highly attuned to signs of disloyalty, particularly from the what? Signs of disloyalty? All right, she's a heartbeat away from the presidency now. She could be just a year away from launching a presidential campaign of her own, giving doubts throughout the political world that Biden would actually go through with the re-election bid in 2024, something he's pledged to do publicly and privately. She'll be a critical validator in 3 years for president, trying to get the country to re-elect him to serve until he's 86. Few of the insiders who spoke with CNN think she's being well prepared. Very few people think she's being prepared for whichever role it will be. Harris is struggling with a rocky relationship with some parts of the White House, while long-term supporters feel abandoned and see no coherent public sense of what she's done or been trying to do as vice president. Being the first woman and the first woman of color, why y'all even being the first woman of color? That's accurate. In a nationally elected office is historic, but it has also come with outside scrutiny and no forgiveness for even small errors, as she'll often point out. Now, defenders.
The world's smallest violin.
You know what I'm saying? What did you think this was?
You were a figurehead. You were used for what you were used for. Now shut up. Get it?
You got what you wanted.
Defenders and people who care for Harris are getting frantic. When they're annoyed, some pass around a recent Onion story mocking her lack of more substantive work. One with the headline, White House urges Kamala Harris to sit at computer all day in case emails. That might be what she's really doing. Onion might be. Onion might not be.
The Onion articles. It's a website or a Twitter page. It says Onion or not, and you got to guess. Like, they just post headlines, and you got to guess whether it's the Onion or whether it's real. And like, you can't tell with some of them, bro. The world is actually turning into a terrible place.
Just sit like computer all day in case emails come through.
Hey, sit here. Hey, you know what you got to do though? When the email come through, she can't respond herself. She got to forward it. You got to forward it. Just hit forward and send it to the right person. And then they going to complain in the White House briefing room. Kamala forwarded it to the wrong people. Sorry, we didn't tell you that we was deporting people at the border. It was vice president's staff messed it up. We sorry. She just sent it to the wrong inbox. Listen. So she's perceived to be in such a weak position that top Democrats in and outside of Washington have begun to speculate privately, asking each other why the White House has allowed her to become so hobbed in the public consciousness, at least as they see it. Hobbled. Yeah, they should protect that, but they don't really care because America don't really care about this woman.
Man, I already see it, man. I already see it. We called it. I called this a while ago, dude. I said, you know what? All you're doing is prolonging Trump from getting in there. You should just did get. Hey, since you did want to do right, but man, I'm telling you, I think Trump is gonna get it in 2024. That's just my prediction. I said that when the election happened.
Bruh, listen, the whole country just gonna catch fire if he get reelected. We are not supporting Trump.
He coming.
What
I think, I'm not just telling you, bro. What I think, bro.
Yeah, I think he's gonna. I think he's gonna run. He's gonna win again, and I think he's either gonna pick. He's either gonna pick the governor of Florida to be his running mate, or the governor of Texas.
Yeah. Yep.
The governor of Texas is in a wheelchair, so I feel like he might get points with him.
Some points for that.
And I think just because Florida handled the coronavirus the way they've handled it, they said Florida has some of the lowest numbers in the country.
No way.
I mean, we're not, but I feel like they look it up. Look it up.
The lowest, no,
look it up, bro. Look it up. Look it up. Look it up. I'm not. I mean, this is like CNN is saying it. I'm not making this up. Look it up.
Okay.
They might.
Anyways. let's finish on this one. We'll talk about.
All right, so they say that she's honored and very proud to be the vice president of the United States. Her job as the number 2 is to be helpful and supportive to the president and to take on work that he asked her to take on. The lieutenant governor of California and a longtime friend covering up for her. She spoke with Vice President last Monday morning before Harris departed for a diplomatic mission to France. Isn't France the country that's pissed at us because we started selling subs to the Australians instead of them? She gonna go there and get beat up. They sending her there to be a test dummy.
Y'all didn't hear what she did. So she was in a meeting with some French scientists, and while she was talking to them, she used a fake French accent. If you click that hyperlink, I think it links to the video.
Let me see.
Yeah, let's see, man. Let's do it.
Let me see. I'm looking at it now. I'm trying to see if this one said. I'm saying if it mentions the accent before I pull it up. But yeah, so keep going. I will pull it up when I find something that mentions the accent thing.
So okay, you want me to?
An incumbent vice president. So here's the thing. Let me say this though. An incumbent vice president should be a shoe-in the next time the party's presidential nomination is open. But guessing who might launch a theoretical primary challenge to Harris has become an ongoing insider parlor game. Other politicians with their own presidential ambitions have started privately acknowledging that they are trying to figure out how to quietly lay the groundwork to run if and when Harris falters, as they think she might. The reality is more complex and looks different to people more familiar with how any White House actually works. Harris is the first vice president in decades to come into office with less Washington experience than the president, and finding her footing was always going to be hard. All right, shut up. Presidents and vice presidents and what would you say? Go ahead.
That was true. That sentence, man. That was true, bro. She didn't bring anything to the table. She doesn't have experience, nothing, on that level. She was a junior senator running just like Obama. Junior senator running for, you know what I mean? And she didn't even make it to Iowa. So that's even worse. At least Obama, did very well in the, you know what I'm saying? But she was, again, she didn't have nothing. What's she gonna do? You know what I'm saying? At the end of the day. And then when you're a vice president, man, for the most part, you getting the crumbs anyway. You just didn't look nice. You know what I'm saying? For the most part. So, so they would had to have been setting her up in such a way, in a fashion to where, she would be looking like she's presidential. But again, Biden, you know what I'm saying? When Biden's going through whatever he's going through, he ain't got time to get her looking good for the next time. You know what I'm saying? He's trying to get through his administration right now. So it's kind of like, okay, whatever, we doing our own thing, blah, 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 so on and so forth. But yeah, it's looking bad, man. So here's what's ultimately going to happen. The donors are going to choose who's going to be.
They will.
That's who's going to choose.
The donors will choose.
Yep, and it ain't going to be her.
What they're saying is a lot of them are choosing Pete Buttigieg because he's as baseless and empty and corporate as she is, but they just think he's less because he's got less exposure. Maybe he'll be more palatable long term. I think it's either of those two options is going to be terrible. I'll find you the article, but either of those two options is going to be terrible. But
I don't put it past anything that Buttigieg gets in there, and he's the LGBTQIA plus, right?
Right.
Yeah, that's what he's gonna do. That's gonna be the wave, bro. The wave is we're gonna have the first openly gay president or vice president.
No, not president, not me. Yeah. I mean, it's too early to say. We don't know, man, how it's all gonna come out because you still got Bernie peoples in there. You know what I'm saying? You still got that part of the party. You know what I mean? So you don't know how it's gonna shake up. And how that could, you know what I'm saying? But yeah, the money's gonna go somewhere, but that doesn't mean that because you got the money, you know what I mean, that you're gonna. I mean, just look at Mitt Romney's proof positive, and what was the Bush brother? Jeb. I mean, that's proof positive. Money isn't always where it's at. You know what I'm saying? Like, it doesn't matter. So
I mean, if they do pick Pete, they're gonna lose in 2024. That's my opinion. Either way, her or Pete is gonna be a disaster.
Let
Well,
me
This
let me
Democrat.
let
let
him
me
finish
finish
that.
this one up.
Yeah,
So
I'm
check
sorry,
this
bro.
one out. So one thing that they're saying as this article starts to pivot, as it would because it's CNN, Republicans and white ring media have turned Harris into a political target from the moment she was picked for the ticket, and the implicit racism and sexism have been constant. It's a conundrum unique to her. People are expecting their historic vice president to make history every day, when in fact she's trying to carry the duties of a secondary role. Harris is being judged not just by how she's doing in the traditional duties of vice president, a longtime Democratic operative has said, who has become Harris's most important outside advisor. It's a little bit more subliminal, but it's real. What is her playbook in history? Harris has emerged as a quiet force in administration, Moore said, and she focuses attention on different issues, sometimes just by her very presence in the room. Moore said Harris is a go ahead.
Play that Price is Right. She's so quiet it's non-existent. A quiet force in the administration, bro. Please.
Yeah, I'm not seeing that because we just had a HBC. What just happened? What they cut all that HBCU funding out at the same time. Students are protesting in front of the HBCU, and she went to said HBCU, but instead of trying to get that HBCU some money, this girl standing around. Okay, I heard they wouldn't even let her show up to the infrastructure bill signing. Was that wrong? Did I get that wrong?
They wouldn't let her. Oh wow, I don't know.
I have to pull that up.
Yeah, I sent you an article. They said something like they didn't even announce her being there or something. Like,
hey, just stand over here.
Something. It was from Yahoo or something.
So, okay. So this is the thing, right? I won't even go through all this. I'll show you the Harris thing about the France. But the deal is that, you know, people work so hard to get this woman in the office. They're like, Kamala. Now she's in there and everybody's taking shots at her, but she's not doing herself any favors. And on top of that, I think that black people voted for this woman for one or two reasons. Three reasons. One, blue no matter who, and she was the only thing on the ticket next to the only blue option, so they did it. Two, they thought that a black woman that Kamala represented was going to be some type of inroads for our community politically. So they said, we got to do it no matter what. And we had Al Sharpton and all the way to everybody on the other side of the fence talking about Kamala Harris, black woman. You need to put a black woman into the vice presidency. Like that's going to make some political trajectory for the freedmen in this country who have been oppressed since the moment even after slavery was abolished. And more importantly, let me get this mess out of here. I apologize.
That's it right there. No, that was it. The mini accents of Kamala. We got. So
and then the last one is, listen, when they start talking about this idea of representation in high places, nobody wanted to have the discussion anymore about how this woman was following Obama's playbook, doing miserably at that playbook, and yet had even gone as far as to say she's doing nothing specifically for black people. And then you can't be upset about anything that happens to her at this point because she's being used and she has no intention for anybody who, you know, even looks like her father, who she doesn't really talk about. Like, forget even having the same lineage, Jamaican father, but we look like her and she don't want nothing. We look like him more than she look like us, and we don't want nothing to do with it. I mean, she don't want nothing to do with us. She let our HBCU down. She ain't talking about nothing. She just wanted to get the chucks and pearls in during the election cycle. And then when she was done with that and she got what she needed, you know, it was a wrap. All right, I gotta shut up, y'all.
But I'll say this. I feel like, really, honestly, truly, the people that wanted her to be president, like that article I put from Time magazine, Brittany Cooper, Professor Crump, the only type of people who really wanted her to be vice president, the only people who are saying you got to make her vice president, black women are responsible for your whatever, are those same people I was talking about a couple episodes ago. We were talking about how you have this limited small group of people who went to these elite schools, they hang out in these elite circles, and they speak for all of us on seeing it, these social climbers who don't have any connection to the black people on the ground. No black person wanted her to be vice president. No black person was concerned with her being vice president. You know what I'm saying? Nobody black cared about her being vice president. Now, maybe a few black people who was AKAs, maybe a few black people who went to Howard. But by and large, you didn't see everyday average black people wanting her to be vice president. Because if they wanted her to be vice president, they would have voted for her to be president. And that's the whole thing. Obama was president 8 years. What do you think the vice president is going to do that the president didn't do for 8 years? 2 of those years was with a supermajority. What do you think she's going to do? Who was under the illusion that she was going to do anything for black people, for the freedmen, the descendants of freedmen, the diaspora, African Americans, whatever you want to call us? Who thought she was going to do anything for anybody? When have we, like y'all said, besides Dick Cheney, when have we ever seen a vice president do anything? The vice president don't put a signature on nothing. We had the president was a black man for 8 years, and we lost at every turn as a community. What is she going to do besides embarrass us?
Yeah. So
make a lot of black women feel good.
Well, and I get it, I get it,
Black sororities and fraternities feel good. The high nine of they'll like it. You know what I'm saying? It'll be a good, symbolic measure. You know what I'm saying?
Right. So here's the deal, though. Same woman that explains why HR 40 is kind of dead, and she ain't said nothing about it. And the companion bill that's supposed to be in Senate. Where is that at? She ain't said nothing about it. She can't talk about that. She don't want to talk about that.
She don't have the connections to whip no votes up in the Senate. She was there a year and a half. That's what they do now. Just get in the Senate because it's safe. You got 6 years. So in your first term, run as soon as you get there. That way, if you lose, you could just keep being a senator for the rest of your life. And if you win, because you really don't have a record to run on, they shouldn't have too much dirt on you. Right. At least, that's the thing I say about Obama. At least he wasn't a prosecutor. So he was a community organizer and a law professor and a state senator and all this other stuff. So he could say, look, I'm not that bad. I wasn't a prosecutor. You was a prosecutor, chick. We got video. You were happy. You were proud of your record. You were proud of the things you did. You were proud of that. You stood on that. You know what I'm saying? You paraded yourself as the top cop. You put black men in jail for committing crimes disproportionately, nonviolent, drug-related, low-level crimes. You put black women in jail for having truant children, irrespective of whether the children were sick or there was some extenuating circumstance. One lady was homeless. You didn't care. That's your record. That's who you are. And so,
all right, so let's not again, I'm going to have to make another disclaimer because I know somebody watching or somebody going to watch, be like, all y'all do is rail on Kamala. Y'all ain't talking about nothing. Kamala Harris always beating her up. And y'all
hate black women. I know that's going to be that's always.
Bro, don't tell none of your friends from your group to watch this because they're going to be mad at me.
No, man.
Well, what did they call you that one time, Stan? We was watching that.
They said, what did they say? They said, bro, I can't even remember. I just tuned that garbage out. What did they say? They said something like,
it was so crazy, man. I thought you
were I was a misogynist, but it wasn't. They didn't say misogynist. I
thought it was are you misogynist or something like that?
So, all right. So we got to talk about something. So everybody else is making moves around the Veep. And I guess, like they said, the Veep ain't supposed to be doing nothing. But here's the thing. I tell you this. You can say that the vice president of the United States is not supposed to be in the limelight. They're in the background being a supporter, trying to be the best right hand you ever had in your whole entire career, supposed to be everything to support the president. You can say all of that all you want to. And you can hold it down with all the fortified conviction you got in your bones. But none of these vice presidents had article after article floating out about dysfunction in their office like this.
Yeah.
So when you start asking us or beating up on us about this, when we talk about the history of her and we talk about her contributions or her promise to our community that Black people are supposed to be voting in the interest of, there was never any type of record or any reason to be supporting her individually. I think that we got to be honest about this, and we got to start talking about what's going to happen when it's time for 2024 to come around. But until then, everybody else in the House of Representatives is running circles around her doing things for Black people, but they're half-baked. Like, we got another Clyburn cookie cutter product here. You know, he like to come up with little amazing programs that disappear in the wind, and then he want to push reparations off into the gutter because he know that reparations would do what this fucking bill, right? Forgive my language. Reparations would do what this bill is doing right here and more. But he just want to piecemeal something.
Then he had a 10-10 something program or something. 10-10-20 program.
10-10-10.
Yeah. 10-10. Clyburn's a trip, man. I tell you. Well, boy.
Man, I'm
he said he said you would we would he said we wouldn't have class what was it we wouldn't get cash reparations, right? And he ain't said nothing about the 40 to 50,000 to the people separated at the border. That wasn't a problem. That ain't been a problem for him.
Yeah,
man, bro. With friends like these, man.
Who needs enemies? Hey, Let's go ahead. Let's knock this one on out, man. I'm going down for the count, bro.
Bro, listen, GI Bill benefits. So let's just talk about this hot quickly right now. You know, listen, in honor of Veterans Day, man. Listen, in honor of Veterans Day, congressional Democrats reintroduced legislation Thursday that would provide GI Bill benefits to descendants of Black World War II veterans. The GI Bill Restoration Act was introduced in the House by Majority Whip Jim Clyburn of South Carolina and Democratic Representative Seth Moulton of Massachusetts. Democratic Senator Raphael Warnock of Georgia is set to introduce the legislation in Senate, according to a news release on Clyburn's website. While the original GI Bill ushered in decades of prosperity for post-war America, access to this prosperity was limited for Black World War II veterans who were denied full access to these benefits by mostly white state and local veterans administrations. That sounds like the past 250 years for everything in the Black community. Yeah. This is not just the GI Bill, but he summarized it pretty nicely. Yeah, now, listen.
One of many.
If passed, the bill would extend to the descendants and surviving spouses of Black World War II veterans veterans access to the VA Loan Guarantee Program, which provides assistance for buying and building homes, and the post 9/11 GI Bill educational assistance, which provides financial assistance for school or job training. The legislation also establishes a blue ribbon panel to study the inequities in the distribution of benefits and assistance administered to female and minority members of the armed forces and provide recommendations on additional assistance to repair these inequities, according to the release.
I'm gonna stop there, bro. Again, bro, using Black male bodies to push everything for everybody else. That's right there, dog. Hey, that's pissing me the hell off, man. Being a Black veteran, dude, like, come on, man. Seriously, you know you couldn't have that article right as a larger bill to something that's that's in the this blue panel could be part of what the appropriations bill when they're doing the defense budget. Why is this tied to the GI Bill? You know what? I don't know. I'm just dude.
Pull that article up I just sent right quick, Darvell. It's related.
Okay.
I just posted it in there.
Yep,
it's related.
It. Oh, I look like I've looked at this one before. Why is it highlight? Oh, you probably highlighted that text. Bloop. Oldest World War II veteran turned 112 with a heartwarming social distant birthday party on his porch. Aw.
How many Black men is still alive or spouse is still alive that's World War II vets? He won 12.
Not many.
Oh.
Not many.
Who gonna take advantage of this? Our life expectancy in the 40s was probably 45.
He said probably 45.
So just for the people who've been joining in, just to be clear, what we're talking about is Jim Clyburn's introduction of a what do they call this bill, man? What the hell is it called? The I'm gonna come back. Oh, the bill for the World War II veterans, the black ones who didn't get the GI Bill benefits, right? And
right.
But you still got to be alive, though.
Yeah,
you got to still be alive.
It said, to be fair, it did say descendants as well. So
it said descendants or wives. I thought it just said
it said the wives and descendants. So descendants,
okay.
You know,
the kids.
All right.
But yeah, obviously nobody wife. Man, I mean, most World War II veterans are, you know, average age probably is like 90 something. You know what I'm saying? 80 or 90s. Almost all of them are dead. You know what I mean?
So this is the deal. If we're saying that that's going to even descendants, how this is what he's doing. He's taking a piece of reparations and putting it out there on its own like an a la carte meal, like an a la carte snack.
Yeah. That's what it is. It was like
he just ended, but he don't want cash payments though. Them people probably got underpaid too. So what we gonna do about that? Did he talk about that? The Black World War II vets probably got underpaid. Their cash benefits. I bet you they're gonna find that.
Yeah. What about yeah.
But he don't want to cut their check for that, huh? Why? He don't want to hold no grudge. He don't want to talk about the legacy.
So
the same legacy that. Go ahead.
So based on how I read that, what you were from what you read in the article, they'll base, you know, the descendants will be able to get. The question is how many. You know what I mean? That's the question. It's like if I had two sons, would it be? You know what I mean? Like so since I'm a veteran, I actually have used the GI Bill. You know, the current version or what have you, right? So I know how it works. So there is and they only until recently with the post 9/11 GI Bill were you even able to transfer that to another person in case you didn't want to use it, of which you had to basically add another 6 years onto your contract in order to be able to transfer, let's say, it to a spouse or to a son or whatever, a daughter or whatever, a child, right? But that's only once. That's only one person. Now, if I have multiple dependents, right? You know what I mean? Because at this point, you're thinking like, you know, these people will be having great grandchildren. You know what I'm saying? That could be possibly children, grandchildren, great grandchildren. Who would get it? Who would get it? Right? You know what I'm saying? And then, you know, and basically what it basically is you get your tuition is paid, and then you get what they call a basic allowance for housing. That's what the post 9/11 GI Bill is, or what have you. But yeah, the question would be how many children would be able to access this or not? Just one descendant, and if that's the case, who?
Listen here. This dude, listen. I'm reading this. The bill honors by name two Black World War II veterans, Sergeant Isaac Woodward Jr. and Sergeant Joseph H. Maddox, and aims to provide a transferable benefit for Black World War II descendants and surviving spouses to attend college, secure housing, start businesses, and build generational wealth. I am so tired of if any politician shows up on the street and says to me, I'm going to help you build generational wealth, I might have a fit because I already have generational wealth. If you had a wit back and got it for me, because I should have had it already. Don't come and tell me you threw me in a ditch back when I first got here. Then you took the lid off of the ditch after a bunch of slavery. Then was like, you know what? We're not going to lock you in here no more. You know, good luck. And then when I start putting ladders together and climbing out the ditch, you keep having people come along and chop the ladders down, push me over, throw dirt in my face, and all this stuff. If I had not been messed with after you let that lid off that pot, I would have gotten out of the pot. I would have built another pot and put your ass in it. But for real, I'm not being mean. I'm not trying to be that. Please understand. But for real,
look,
I don't want to build it. I want my wealth given to me, and I want to build on top of the wealth you stole and diverted from my family. That's the only way this works, because I will never catch up with you and the white boys and the Asian boys and everybody else who's been running around getting access to the full American system that you keep cutting me out of.
Like you say,
I'm saying.
Go ahead.
Let's say what you said. The average World War II vet probably 80 or 90 if they're still alive. You going to college? Your kids going to college?
They already went. Dead. Or dead.
You still black? They dead.
Oh, that's a good one. So
they're dead.
What happens if they can't even use the benefit because they've already done something on their own with their own expenses? Then does it transfer to the next generation?
That's what I'm saying. Like World War II veterans probably have great grandkids that are alive. And again, how many? They probably have multiple children. So this is one bit, you know what I'm saying? So yeah, man.
And so then even me, both my grandfathers went to Korea. They didn't go to the World War II. They were too young. Did the Korean War vets get to take advantage of the GI Bill?
Probably not.
You know, I mean, you know what I'm saying? What are you talking about? How you gonna ask an 80-year-old person to start to build generational wealth? This is why I say we cannot have participation in the process. It's too fucking late. We need the finish line. I need the trophy.
I love it.
I don't need to be able to run no more.
Right.
Stop trying to allow us to go into labor. We don't need no labor pains that you already had, because you kept kicking us every time we was building a baby. We need every baby we should have had in the past so we can have a whole family now. You can't tell me I can start having children and you already done took my wife. Now you got guys running around doing Disney Plus films trying to infuse more feminization into the black community by doing Cinderella with sneakers. Let me shut up. I don't know. I ain't seen it yet. Let me back up.
Hey guys, my laptop is freaking about to cut off. So just let me know, man.
All right.
I only got 10% remaining.
Oh my gosh. All right.
Yeah,
so I apologize. What's your closeout, dog, before I wrap us up into your man's and then
I think that's probably what's gonna have to happen, because in essence, continue to listen to us, take everything what we're saying, with a grain of salt, but at the same time still listen to us, and I'll just leave it at that. I don't even have anything really real big to say. Just be involved. Take all this stuff serious. You have the power to be the change, man. At the end of the day, So.
Right. So what we'll do is Gerard's gonna drop off. We're gonna finish up. Stephen, if you got it for a few minutes, we can talk about that Kyle Rittenhouse is your man's in them, and we'll call it a good one. But Gerard, man, be easy, be safe, bro. We're gonna catch you on the next one.
Oh yeah,
definitely.
Peace.
So y'all listen, we talked about a lot of stuff already, from Prop R in Detroit to Kamala Harris's office. And what we just discussed was this Jim Clyburn situation, specifically with this bill he introduced. Jim Clyburn, as a politician for the black community, if you even think he is, has been more of a nuisance and a problem than an aid at this point, because he's been in the way of cash payments for reparations. He's been in the way of real tangible policies. And then he always has a little pet project that's ass backwards and eats away at the premise for reparations. So he's really almost just like we think he is, not just me, just as we have learned through robust political analysis, almost a whipping boy for the Democratic establishment in the House. Just basically, he is literally Nancy Pelosi's whip.
Yeah, he's a House Majority Whip.
Exactly. And so in that sense, the whip is being used to whip at the black community and try to keep us in shape. And he's doing a poor job at that. Kamala ain't even caring about us. It's just a mess. I just don't want to get off into a tangent. But two things before we get out of here. We got to talk about, let me just put it this way. That GI Bill is a slice of the pie for what would be in a formal reparations program. It's a slice. Listen, I mean, there's just so much that has to be dealt with. You've seen and heard earlier today from the Detroiters who talked about the need for, public assistance programs for transportation and the need for jobs, and that relates to affirmative action and the need for these things for education. This is all stuff that comes back to reparations and having the wealth and having the different systems in place to protect us. But Kyle Rittenhouse, he's got protection, don't he? He got a little bit of protection.
Seems like Paul Mooney called it the protection for the collection. What is the protection? Complexion for the protection of the collection. So yeah, it seems like he got something.
All right. Well, we're gonna have to talk about that, Cat. Let's get it going, y'all. It is time for Your Mans and Them.
You are listening to Your Mans and Them. This your mans? Hey, yo, who mans is this? Hey, yo, who mans is this? Hey, yo, who mans is this?
Whose mans is this? I need to know. I really need to know.
Bloop. Hey, Kyle Rittenhouse accused of fake crying by critics, crocodile tears. Stephen, what you know about this, man? How does trial been going, man?
I have to, full disclosure, I have to really be fully honest. I haven't been following it because I found out that the 3 people he shot were white. And so I really felt like unqualified to talk about it because it's white on white violence. And, that community, there's so much that community, like we don't really talk about white on white violence enough, I feel like, in America. And it's really epidemic. It's the silent epidemic. And I feel like they really need to, I don't know if it's, I don't know if they need to have meetings or whatever they do. But like they always talk about black on black violence. But like he killed 2 white people and then injured a third. And I feel like, I don't know if he's fake crying, which I've heard about that. Like then it's without remorse. So it's just, I don't know, man.
I don't know either, man. I don't know. I think that he has a reason to fake cry because this man about to lose his life if he gets even one of these convictions. He about to lose it all.
I feel like I would be surprised if he has any problems and goes to prison. I don't think he's going to prison. I don't believe he's going to prison. I don't think that in this country, what he did is going to constitute a crime that deserves punishment in prison. I would be very surprised. I would be very surprised if he goes to prison. And they're talking about having all this, police presence and like ramping up stuff. I'll be very surprised if he goes to prison.
You know what? Is Black America should be tuned out of this, I would think then. I think America's tuned into it on some of the more liberal versus conservative like tip because it was about him bringing the gun and people on one side said he came looking for trouble. People on the other side said he came to help.
Right.
And
but like you said, he didn't shoot any black people. He didn't appear to target any black people. And for the most part, I feel like black people stayed clear away from him. And I feel like that's one of the things for the most part, black people understand. People with guns, you stay away from them. White people with guns, you stay away from them. And Wisconsin is a very similar state to Michigan. If I'm somewhere and I see a dude with a M16 or AR-15 or whatever, and he's standing in the middle of the road wearing, what they call them, the sand color army t-shirts,
walking around with fatigue on,
camouflage hats. I'm walking the other way, bro. I'm out of here. You don't have to even, you know what I'm saying? I might not stick around if I just see you wearing them without the gun. So like that's just me. And so I feel like, what happened, and this is kind of one of those things you see with people in social media has kind of created this when they like you see that what's that white guy who gets punched a lot? The one he from Mississippi, he's like the racist white guy. He gets punched in the face all the time. I forget his name. Yeah, he gets punched in the face all the time. But like people think you just going, everybody just afraid of you. Like everybody just playing with you. Like he just got this gun and he ain't gonna use it on you. And like, nah, bro, he got a gun, bro. He got a gun, bro. I don't care. That's not a game I'm willing to play. Like Ernest, Ernest in the chat when they was at the state capitol. How many black people was up at the state capitol? Like, yeah, we gonna show them. It's black people live in Lansing and East Lansing and all that. They wasn't around. I don't need to be there. Yeah, I'm not gonna be a hero. None of that, bro. The police is the ones y'all love. Let them deal with this. The police
exactly.
They let them walk clean through.
Woo! Yeah, it's a mess. This is a mess, man. I think that you know, if he was doing these crocodile tears, just crying it up and doing all this stuff, you know, white America need to deal with him. I mean, they need to deal with themselves. Like you remember that, like I told you about that group in Detroit from back in the day. I think it was Surge, Stand Up for Racial Justice, and they done that event that went viral called, you know, Come Get Your People. And they need to come get their people for real. If y'all got the nerve to be like letting the police let him walk freely with this gun, but then when he get on trial, y'all not trying to do nothing about it. I mean, y'all upset and y'all trying to get him prosecuted. You better y'all better get it straight. Like if you want him down, you want him prosecuted, you want him to go to jail, you shouldn't let him even have a gun running around the crowd. You better figure out why did they think that was okay. Y'all need to investigate this whole. Wasn't there like some Facebook posting that was trying to organize people to protect something? You know, it was one of them joints, kind of like the insurrection.
I think it was like where he was at. It was like a auto parts store or something like that, and he is like going around, either protecting them or making sure nobody was burning them down because I guess one had already been burned down and whatever. I mean, bro. Look, hey, if anything pop off in Detroit, I'm staying in the house. I don't have no skin in the game. You know what?
You know what? That's a good question. If something popped off in Detroit, for real, who do you find down there causing the shit though?
Nobody. I mean,
it don't be, but I guess what I'm getting at is the Antifa, what they call it, the Antifa, right? That's who they want to blame back in, you know, especially during the Black Summer and the different protests that got wild in Detroit. Listen, there were reports coming left and right that a lot of the jump off was happening toward the night by people who were not Black and were not residents of the city. They was hauling boys back down into the city from you know, Sterling Heights and Warren and Rochester and Auburn Hills and all this and the third.
I mean, just look at the Capitol. Look what happened at the national, you know, the nation's capital. Well, no, I mean, it might have been a couple black people. He was a one black dude in the you know, House chamber, whatever. He was like Kenyan or whatever. But like for the most part, bro, I'm not gonna be here. I'm not going. I'm not coming. I'm not gonna be in these. I'm not gonna be in these situations, bro. I got too much to lose, and I know already I'm on a short leash, and whether or not I got, you know, the law on my side or whatever, it's not a risk I need to take. I don't need an extra headache. I don't need to prove no point to nobody. I don't need that. You know, I'm just trying to get the point from point A to point B safely, quietly. Leave me alone. And so, you know, I believe that. I believe that when you had all that stuff going on this last summer with over the George Floyd stuff, you had some of those black people organizing it, who some of them I feel like, you know, they were really riding that wave of that white support. But I feel like a lot of it was like, you know, white people just, I mean, you look at, you know, look at was it 3 weeks ago after Michigan football game? They was flipping cars over and burning stuff. Like they do this even for celebrating good things. Bro. They do it. Man. You know what I'm saying? So it's just like, I can't be there, bro. I'm not gonna be there, bro. I'm not gonna be there.
Got it.
We ain't got it. Look at him, bro. He about to have an aneurysm.
Man, he just can't, bro.
This is
He found
horrible.
something.
This is horrible, bro.
They got a break for him. They be giving us breaks when we break down crying on the stage, on the
No, that's
thing.
what I'm saying. that remind me of the Richard Pryor joke. He said he went down to jail. He went down to the courthouse and was looking for justice. That's what he found. Just us. He said they give niggas time like it's lunch. 40 years. And that's, I mean, so you know what I'm saying? If you as a society, if this is what you have created, if this is the system you have created where you have allowed for your people to behave in this way, you know, like Malcolm X said, you know, the chicken's coming home to roost. I don't know what to tell you. You know what I'm saying?
It's the same
my
thing,
mama,
bro.
My dad wouldn't have to worry about me being in no situation like that.
No.
You know what I'm saying? But I was raised not to be in them situations, and not because, you know, I'm necessarily like pro property damage. But look, bro, that's not my fight. The police is here, the fire department is here, the National Guard or whoever else is here. That's not my fight, bro. That's not my fight. And so if the judge, if the prosecutor or the defense or the jury or whoever is cool with it, or, you know, his story is compelling, or, you know, if they feel like, hey, you know what I'm saying? You know, it's more to it, bro. That's fine. Just leave that in your neighborhood. Just make sure that stays in y'all's community, because we got enough problems we trying to work out. Deal with the white on white violence, because it appears to be a problem. It's the silent epidemic. I'm telling you. You know, it's the silent epidemic.
So
white on white violence is you know, 80-something%, high 80% of all white people are murdered by other white people. You know? We have to get this. They have to, not we. We got our own shit to deal with. They have to get this figured out. And I hope they get it figured out. I wish them guys speed. You know?
Well, I mean, when they get that figured out, they'll help solve some of the other problematic social disorder that's going on that we have to deal with in the process. Because if you can't even get alignment on your own people, how are we gonna get all your own people to listen to us and respect our rights? Right. But anyway, that's a whole thing. But we're gonna go ahead and wrap this one up, yo. It's been a solid 1 hour and 47 minutes of heavy hitting discussion. Again, if you are watching live, please share this after, you know, you share it now. People can come back and watch it later. In the morning, send the link to this YouTube to your friend. Be like, hey, I watched this dope show last night with these bros that was just talking about this stuff and they really hit it. And subscribe to our YouTube page, right? You know, and Stedman and Gerard are going to be working on a new series that's going to come out on the channel. It's going to be a little bit more poppy. It's going to be a little bit more mainstream. It's going to talk a little bit more about some of the issues that are happening in some of the movies and entertainment that have come into the community's purview recently, especially with this explosion of the online streaming platforms developing and producing their own videos and movies, rather. That leaves a lot of stuff to come out that didn't require the big ticket movie theaters to you know, to buy in on it. So they can come out with some crazy stuff real quick. You let some Netflix, Amazon, Apple TV, and so on and so forth produce it in their own way. And they probably go grab Tyler Perry too and have him join the party. So you're going to get some reckless shit. Forget my language. And so, you know, I just want to leave it there and make sure you understand the views and opinions expressed on this program are those of the respective hosts and not of the persons of the program. And, you know, they don't necessarily reflect the views and opinions of the Freedman Collective as a channel. So my views are not everyone's views. Stedman, what you want to close people out with before we shut this down?
You know, ultimately, it's the same message that we kind of always have. Is with this information, we hope that you can put these things into action, right? Take what we talk about, figure out ways to apply it in your own daily lives, talk to your family, talk to your friends, talk to your coworkers, try to see how you can enact this stuff in your community. Understand how they're trying to use us for their own political, financial, or social benefit. And by they, I mean the politicians, the elites, everybody, right? The entertainment industry, everybody. You see, Kamala, she really tried to sister girl her way into the presidency, thinking that we were going to fall for that same stuff that we fell for with Obama. And I really think the only good thing that came out of Obama is that it really did wake black people up in a way to the reality that black people are not necessarily just default a better option than white people. Sometimes they're just two bad options. And so you have a bad black option and a bad white option. And so we have to stop thinking in that binary where I'm going to support a black person because they're black, because black people will put you in a ditch too. And so sometimes if you got two bad choices, your options are to fight, not to submit to the black bad choice over the white bad choice. And then the one of the good things that will probably come out of the Biden administration, unintended good, is that it's probably going to end Kamala Harris's political career, because I can't really see her doing anything else after this. She's not going to ever be president. I don't see Biden winning another term. She's not going to be like governor of California. She's not going to be, you know what I'm saying? This is it. She's going to be like Dan Quayle after this. You'll never hear from her again. And so that's kind of like the unintended benefit. It's unfortunate that we're subjected to her terrible social graces and kind of weird, social awkwardness, but it's a small price to pay for a lifetime of freedom from this woman. So, we appreciate y'all watching us, and continue to like, share, and subscribe. Like, share, and subscribe.
Like, share, and subscribe, y'all. Peace.
Peace and reparations.